Earlier this year on July 10th, Nintendo dropped a trailer. It was a strange, mysterious trailer, especially for them. There was very little you can actually glean from this teaser. It's for something called Emio, and that this game is M-rated. Could it be for a horror game? It looks like it could be, but Nintendo doesn't really have any horror IPs of their own. Sure, they've published a couple, but not developed one of their own. And I'm not counting Luigi's Mansion. Shut up. It's not scary. Is this a new thing? And the fact that it's M-rated, that stands out coming from Nintendo, since while they've published M-rated stuff, they don't develop M-rated games themselves. Hella mysterious. Then 1 week later on the 17th, we get a title drop. Emio the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club. Wait, hold up. Famicom Detective Club? Are you for fucking real? That's genuinely surprising, and I was very excited for this shit to drop. I liked Famicom Detective Club. Girl Who Stands Behind is better than Missing Air, and I don't want to hear any Missing Air superiority propaganda bullshit. But it's shocking to see something like those games receiving a sequel fucking 35 years later. That's insane. Equally insane is that it would be releasing the next month. Thank you to my supporters. If you would like to support me in the channel, you can do so on Patreon. Link on screen and in the description. If you do, you'll be thanked in the videos, be able to watch the videos a week before release, as well as receive exclusive bonus content there. Emio was marketed in a way that makes it come off as a horror game. That teaser trailer was some spooky atmospheric shit, so it's natural to assume that Emio would be some spooky atmospheric shit. So, how scary is this horror game? It's not. In fact, it's not a horror game. Despite the marketing, nothing pants-shittingly scary to be found here. It's kind of like The Girl Who Stands Behind, where the marketing tells you it'll be spooky, and then it isn't. Runs in the family, it looks like. So if it's not a horror game, then why is this the Halloween video? Shut the fuck up. Sometimes plans fall through and you gotta have backups. If Emio the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club is not a horror game, then what is it? It's there in the title. It's a Famicom Detective Club game, full and through. Just longer. If you're unfamiliar with the series and what that entails, the Famicom Detective Club series is a series of murder mysteries. Think something like an Ace Attorney. Some bastard is doing bastard shit, and you've got to investigate to figure out the identity of that bastard. Though, unlike Ace Attorney, Famicom Detective Club keeps its shit grounded in reality. There's nothing really supernatural happening, and the games are played pretty straight, not having a whole lot of goofy affairs. Not to say it's mega serious or something like that, the games have a sense of humor, and the characters have distinct personalities with their own eccentricities. Not to the level of Ace Attorney, but there's a little bit of spice. And much like its predecessors, Emio is a standalone game. You're free to jump in this without needing to play the prior two. Are there some callbacks? Yeah, a couple, but nothing all that important. You won't feel lost if you'd rather just skip to this. It's so standalone that the game fucking dropped the Famicom Detective Club title to being the subtitle, which makes sense to help push Emio as its own thing and to not tie it down to the prior games. Every murder mystery needs a hook, so what is Emio's? Emio takes place 2 years after the missing heir. You can tell Ayumi's age based on the thickness of her neck. There's a dead teenage boy found with some creepshit bag on his head. Murder bad. You should probably solve that shit. And this specific case might possibly be linked to a series of unsolved murders committed 18 years prior, but could also be linked to an urban legend about the Smiling Man. Now go out and investigate shit. That's as far as I want to talk about the story of this game, because the story is kind of the fucking point of playing through this kind of game. Emio, as a game, is a pretty simple and straightforward point-and-click visual novel, though less point-and-click and leaning more into the visual novel side. The only thing stopping this from being a kinetic one is the requirement to select prompts to ask to characters. In order to progress in conversations, you've got to select the correct prompt in order to gain new information. Either direct topics, showing the character an item, or thinking about something and coming to some sort of conclusion to then bring up. And every couple of text boxes in a conversation, you've got to pick another prompt to keep the conversation flowing. There's no branches to go off on, there's no opportunities to lose out on information or anything like that. You're not allowed to progress until the game says that you're good and you've got all the dialogue. This is why I say it's not that far off of a kinetic VN, because there really aren't any meaningful choices to make. The only decisions you got is in what order do you want to ask your questions, but you have to ask all of them anyway. If you've played the prior 2 games, you more or less should expect what to get. It's more Famicom Detective Club, but longer and a more streamlined and smoother experience. In terms of girth, it's got a circumference of 15 hours, about twice as long as one of the previous games. At least, that's how long it took me. And despite it being a pretty straightforward VN, I'd say it plays better than the remakes of the prior games on Switch. Now, they are great remakes. They remain accurate to the originals with updated visuals and music and made much more accessible, leaving the language and console barriers. Although I will say that One Woman is more stacked in the Super Famicom version. Never mind, these remakes are ass. As much as the accuracy is something I would like to praise with the remakes, it does have its drawbacks, as it maintains that accuracy in how the game is designed. This was back in an era where a layer of obscurity was kinda the standard as a way to lengthen the game. And while it's not terrible in the first 2 games, there are times where you just feel a bit stuck in a room because you're just rotating through options, not knowing which is the correct option to trigger the progression flag. And it doesn't help that there can be quite a bit of options to rotate through. In Emio, there's far less options to rotate through, and I think this is for the better. Dropping the hefty drop-down menu for one with less to choose from results in faster pacing. Rather than rotating through 6 other options before finding the right one, you've got like 3 or 4 in Emio most of the time. And this keeps the flow of the conversation going. There's a lot less of that "what the fuck do I do next" feeling because of not just that, but also way better signposting. More often than not, the end of a series of text boxes will have a keyword or phrase that clues you into, "Hey, maybe click this option next." And new to Emio is important text being highlighted. This might place a spotlight on new information to take note of, or a signpost to suggest what to do next. This can be turned off if you want, but I don't know why you'd fucking do that. And the last part that helps with flow is something that isn't that obvious unless you actually get hands-on between the 3 games. In the remakes, when scrolling through the menu, there's a delay. A small one, but a noticeable one nonetheless. When you scroll to an adjacent option, there's an animation in place of the icon to the left of the word that moves up and down. When this animation plays, no input is accepted. You can't select it, nor can you keep scrolling. Several times, this has eaten my inputs and it makes the menuing feel not as great and slower. Good fucking thing they learned to fix that shit for Emio. That menu's lubed up and nice and smooth. No inputs getting dropped. Not just menuing, but the animations in Emio are just overall a lot smoother. In the prior games, the frame rate on the animations are noticeably lower than they are in Emio. It had been a while since I played the remake, so I forgot about that detail, but going back to capture some footage, it was kind of jarring going from smooth animations to this. And being a Nintendo game, this of course is going to have a Nintendo level of polish, especially regarding the animations. Emio is an animated as fuck game. Every damn screen has constant movement. A ton of other VNs will have a selection of static portraits that it rotates through, and the only thing really moving in those games are the text appearing on screen and the transitions of portraits and backgrounds, and that's the standard. But in Emio, every character in every screen is brought to life. Even when characters are idle, they're breathing and blinking. The clouds are blowing in the background, the tea has steam rising off of it, and the background characters are doing their own unique actions. It's little details like this that not only keeps a visual novel visually engaging, but helps to fully realize the world and characters and help immerse the player. The majority of the time as I went through the game, I was pretty confused as to why the game was rated M. Content-wise, it's not that far off Girl Who Stands Behind. They both deal with dead teenagers. Arguably, Girl Who Stands Behind is more fucked up because our MC looks at a corpse and is like, "Damn, she cute? Bro, get that necrophilia shit out of here." This is not the time for that. In fact, no time's the time for that. Emio does use some harsher language than your typical Nintendo game like bitch and shit. But so does Xenoblade 3, a game that got a T rating. Before the game came out, I looked at the ESRB rating and it mentioned talk of suicide, and I thought that was the big reason why. I thought it was similar to Yomawari, where the first and third games were T, but the second game was M because of some fucked up shit happening up front in the game. Now, that shit definitely did factor into the rating, but then I hit the end of the game and realized the M rating is very backloaded. Man, speaking of backloaded content, I'm not gonna directly refer to it, but that 30-minute sequence at the end of the game was fucking insane. If you know, you know. But that shit had my jaw drop the entire time. Most people don't finish games, so to play something like that at the ass end takes a fuck ton of confidence to do. It's something I feel like only Nintendo would do, since their worry is more so about making a good fucking game and aren't the most worried about the finances. I think they'll survive a game underperforming. But I hope Emio doesn't underperform. I hope it sells decently well enough. Emio's existence is a very interesting one in the Nintendo umbrella of IPs and games for many reasons. It's a lot more serious and grounded in reality than the rest of their library of titles. Serious enough to warrant an M rating, which I believe is their first in-house M-rated title that they've developed. This is a first for them, naturally meaning that they've taken a risk given their standard audience of children and adult children. And if this does well, it could lead to Nintendo taking as bold of a risk with other games as they did with this title. Not saying to make an M-rated Mario or Zelda, I think that would be a terrible fucking decision, but to push some boundaries with games that it would fit, either with new IPs or something like a Fire Emblem would work with an M rating. I don't know if another Famicom Detective Club game will exist. Frankly, it's kind of insane that Emio exists in the first place, being a fresh sequel coming out over 30 years later. But even if it's not a Famicom Detective Club game per se, I'd love to see more games from Nintendo that carry on this spirit. That is to say, bring back my boy Kyle Hyde, goddammit. Hotel Dusk and Last Window is so fucking good, and an M-rated Kyle Hyde game would go so hard. Or they could take a Yakuza to Like a Dragon route and do a complete rebrand for the series if they want to take the characters into forward titles. Hell, they already demoted Famicom Detective Club from main title to subtitle for this entry, and I wouldn't be surprised that, if there's another game, that it gets dropped or changed completely. Not only is Emio the Smiling Man a fascinating game from this perspective, but it's not just fascinating. It's a damn good game that I would suggest going through and figuring out the mystery for yourself.